You're too late, Danielle. That was Rosalie, my daughter-in-law, married to my son for 4 years and never once called me anything warmer than my first name. Too late for what? I was still holding the gift bag, a stuffed elephant, a blanket I'd bought at the airport because I couldn't wait 3 more hours to buy something better. "The baby's gone," she said. "We found her a family." I want you to understand something before I go further. I flew 11 hours for that sentence. I want you to sit with it the way I had to. If you're watching this, drop a comment telling me where you're tuned in from and subscribe to the channel. These are true stories about the people who keep showing up even when the world tells them to stop. Now, let me take you back to where this started. 3 days earlier, my phone rang in a hotel room in Phoenix. I was there for work, closing out a property deal that had eaten my whole month. "Mom, it's a girl." My son Clinton's voice cracked on the word girl. "8 days early, but she's healthy. You have to see her." I booked the first flight out of Phoenix, landed in Nashville the next morning, drove straight to their place in Belmead, the kind of street where every lawn looks hired, not grown. Clinton opened the door before I knocked. He looked like he hadn't slept in days, and not the good kind of tired new fathers usually wear. "Where is she?" I said. "Where's my granddaughter?" He didn't answer. He just stepped back and let me in, and that's when I knew. You feel it before anyone says a word. The house was too quiet. No bassinet by the couch, no bottles drying on a rack, nothing. Rosalie was sitting in the front room, the one they never actually used, hands folded like she was waiting for a meeting to start. "Sit down, Danielle," she said. "I don't want to sit. I want to hold my granddaughter." That's when she told me. Gone, placed, already done. Done? I looked at Clinton. She was born 5 days ago. The hospital ran a screening before discharge, genetic test. She has Down syndrome. I felt my own pulse in my ears. "And you gave her away because of that?" "We're not built for a child who needs that much. Therapy, specialists, a lifetime of it. My family doesn't carry that kind of burden, and neither will I." My family doesn't carry that kind of burden, like the baby was luggage somebody else could check. "Tell me which agency," I said. "I'll take her myself, tonight." Clinton finally spoke, Mom. "We already called a lawyer. Grandparents don't have rights in adoption cases. It's a closed placement. The records are sealed. There's nothing you can do." They'd checked. Before I'd even landed, they'd made sure the door was locked behind them. "If you can throw away your own daughter, then I don't know who raised you, because it wasn't me." "Maybe you don't know me at all, Mom. You're gone 8 months out of the year. You don't get to fly in for 1 weekend and tell us how to live." Rosalie reached for his arm. He pulled away from her, too. For 1 second I thought, good, some part of him still feels it. Then the second passed, his face closed back up. I drove to a Hampton Inn off the highway and sat in the parking lot for 40 minutes before I could make myself go inside. I didn't cry in front of them. I cried in a room with a Bible in the drawer and a painting of a barn on the wall until my whole chest ached. Then I stopped, because crying wasn't going to find her. I opened my laptop at 1 in the morning and started a list. Private investigators in Tennessee, Down syndrome support networks, early intervention specialists, adoption attorneys who'd handled cases just like this. If the law said I had no rights, fine, I'd find another way in. I was 56 years old, jet-lagged, sitting alone in a motel room, and I made myself one promise before I turned off the light. Whatever it took, however many years, I was going to learn everything there was to know about raising that little girl, so that the day I found her, I wouldn't be some stranger showing up. I'd already be her grandmother in every way that mattered. Clinton thought that was the end of it. He had no idea I'd just gotten started. I think you need to accept that this might not be findable, Danielle. That was the investigator I'd hired 6 months in. 40 years old, used to be a cop, good at his job. He set it across a diner table, sliding a folder back to me instead of handing me a lead. "There's no findable," I said. "There's only not found yet." He didn't take the case off my hands. I took it off his. I'd left Nashville 2 weeks after that night in Belmead, found a 1-bedroom apartment in Knoxville, far enough from Clinton that I wouldn't run into him at a grocery store, close enough that I could still get back fast if a lead came in. I bought a map of Tennessee at a gas station, pinned it to my bedroom wall, and stuck the first pin in Nashville, where she was born, where they'd let her go. I want to tell you the truth about searching for someone the system is hidden. It is not dramatic. It is paperwork. It is phone calls that get hung up on. It is sitting in lobbies of adoption agencies that won't even confirm a child exists, let alone tell you where she went. What it taught me first was that I didn't know anything, not really. I'd read maybe 2 articles about Down syndrome in my whole life before that house in Belmead. So I started there. I found a parents' support group that met Tuesday nights at a community center off Kingston Pike. Walked in late the first time, sat in the back. "You don't have a child with Down syndrome," one of the mothers said to me, not unkindly, just clocking me. "Not yet," I said. "I'm looking for my granddaughter. She's somewhere out there with it and nobody who knows how to raise her." The room went quiet for a second. Then a woman named Carol, she ran early intervention services for the county, slid her chair over. "Then you'd better start learning fast, because if you find her, day 1 matters, not day 100. I went every Tuesday for a year, learned about therapies I'd never heard of, learned the difference between a school that integrates kids and one that warehouses them, learned that "she'll never" is a sentence people say about kids like her constantly, and it's almost always wrong. I hired a second investigator after the first one quit. He lasted 4 months before the trail went the same kind of cold. I hired a third. 18 months in, I drove to every adoption agency within 3 states with the same folder, a photo of the gift bag I never got to give her, a copy of her hospital birth record, the one piece of paper Clinton hadn't been able to seal. Most agencies wouldn't even look at me. Privacy laws, closed records. A few were kind about turning me away. Most weren't. I kept the pins going anyway, red for agencies, blue for facilities. By the second year, my wall looked like a crime board, except the only crime was 2 people deciding a 5-day-old baby wasn't worth keeping. I turned 58 in that apartment, alone, eating cake out of a box because I didn't feel like making the trip to buy a real one. My knees had started complaining about all the driving. My third investigator had gone quiet for 2 months, which usually meant another dead end coming. Then, on a Thursday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number, area code I didn't recognize. "Is this Danielle Pierce?" A man's voice, careful, like he was choosing each word. "My name is Philip. I'm a caseworker out of Charleston, South Carolina." "Yes," I said. My hand had already found the edge of the kitchen counter. "That's me." There's a pause on the line, the kind that tells you the next sentence is going to change something. "There's a girl here," Philip said. "She's been with us a long time." I didn't sit down. I didn't trust my legs to hold the chair and the news both at once. "Tell me," I said. There was a pause on the line, the kind that tells you the next sentence is going to change something. "There's a girl here," Philip said. "She's been with us a long time." "She doesn't talk much to new people," Philip said. "Doesn't trust easy. You should know that going in."
I'd driven through the night to get there. 8 years since Belmead. 8 years of pins and dead ends and a wall of red string that led nowhere. And now I was standing in a hallway that smelled like industrial cleaner, about to walk into a room with a number on the door instead of a name. "How old is she now?" I asked. "She's 9, Philip said. Came to us through foster placement when she was about 2, bounced through a couple of homes before that. Down syndrome, like you said. Most families who come through here are looking for," he caught himself, "looking for a different kind of placement." "Looking for easy," I said. He didn't argue with me. He opened the door. The room had 2 beds, only one of them made up with anything personal, a worn stuffed rabbit missing an ear, propped against the pillow. A girl sat on the edge of the other bed, knees pulled up, watching a small TV with the sound low. "Jasmine," Philip said gently, "somebody's here to meet you." She looked at me the way you look at every adult who's ever walked through that door and then walked back out without you. Flat, already bracing. I sat down on the end of the bed across from her, didn't get too close. "My name is Danielle," I said. "I've been looking for you for a really long time." "People say that," Jasmine said, quiet but clear. "They don't mean it." "I know. I'm not asking you to believe me yet." She studied my face for a long moment, then she pulled her sleeve up without being asked, showing me a small mark on her forearm, shaped almost like a teardrop. "Everybody who comes looks at this, like it's going to tell them something." My chest went tight. Clinton had the same mark, same place since he was a baby. I'd forgotten that detail existed until I was looking right back at it again. "Philip," I said, not taking my eyes off her arm, "I need to see her file, everything you have." The file was thin. Born in Nashville, placed through a private agency at 6 days old, bounced through 2 foster homes before landing here at 2. No family contact listed, no adoption interest in 9 years. The hospital, the birthmark, the timeline, every piece matched. "I think she's my granddaughter," I told Philip. My voice didn't sound like mine. He looked at me for a second like he was deciding whether to believe it or manage it. "We can run a DNA test. It'll take about a week to come back." A week felt like nothing after 8 years. I drove back every single day anyway, sat with Jasmine in the common room on the same worn couch, not pushing. She liked drawing, horses mostly, the same horse over and over like she was trying to get it right. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked on the 4th day, not looking up from the paper. "Because I want to," I said. "That's it. No other reason." "That's a weird reason." "Maybe. It's still true." The results came back on a Friday. Philip read them out loud in his small office, and I made him say the number twice because I needed to hear it land properly the second time. 99.8%, he said. "She's your granddaughter, Mrs. Pierce." I put my face in my hands right there in his office and didn't try to stop myself. The adoption moved fast after that, faster than anyone expects something this big to move. I had the money, a clean home study, no red flags, and a judge in a Charleston courtroom 3 months later who looked over his glasses at a 9-year-old girl in a new dress. "Do you understand what's happening today?" he asked her. "I'm going home with her," she said. "For real this time." "How does that make you feel?" She thought about it like the question mattered. "Good," she said. "Scared a little, but good." He signed the papers. I drove her back to my house in Knoxville that same afternoon, the one with the map still pinned to the bedroom wall, hundreds of colored pins leading to exactly this. She stood in the doorway of her new room and wouldn't go in at first, just stared at the bed like it might not be real, like it might get taken back. "It's yours," I said. "Nobody's taking it away." She didn't answer. She just sat down on the edge of it very carefully, like she was testing whether it would hold. I had her. 8 years, hundreds of dead ends, and I finally had her. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't know for another 7 years, was that Clinton wasn't done making decisions that would land back on my doorstep.
Grandma, somebody's at the door asking for you, says he knows you. That was Jasmine, 16 now, taller than me, calling down the stairs with her phone still in her hand, mid-video call with a friend. I'm not expecting anyone, I called back, but I already had a bad feeling because only one person from that part of my life still had this address. It wasn't a man at the door. It was an email sitting open on my laptop from that morning that I still hadn't answered. Subject line, family. Sender, Clinton. 7 years of silence, and then that. Mom, I know I have no right to write this. I think about what happened every day. Rosalie and I adopted a son 4 years ago. His name is Theo. He's 17 now, a good kid, better than either of us deserves. He asked if he had a grandmother. I told him there'd been a falling out. He wants to meet you. I'm not asking for myself. I'm asking for him. I read it 3 times standing at the kitchen counter before Jasmine came down and found me still staring at the screen. What is it? She signed. She'd picked up some sign language at school, mixed it with speech the way a lot of kids her age did, half out of habit, half because it was easier on a bad day. I turned the laptop toward her, watched her read it, watched her face go carefully blank, the same look she got whenever something hit too close to the bone. They adopted a grandson, she said finally, after what they did to me. Looks that way. Do you want to meet him? I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to delete it. Part of me keeps thinking about a kid who didn't do anything wrong, asking for a grandmother he's never met. Jasmine sat down across from me. He's adopted too, she said, like me. I noticed that. If you go, she said, I'm coming with you. Jasmine, you don't have to face them. They're the reason. I know exactly who they are, she cut me off, steady. But I'm not the scared baby they gave away. I'm not even the 9-year-old in room 7. I'm fine, and you might need backup. I almost laughed despite everything. Backup. Whatever you want to call it. They don't get to know who I am right away, though, not until we know what they actually want. We flew out a week later, Knoxville to Nashville, a city I hadn't set foot in since the worst night of my life. Clinton picked a restaurant on the south side, neutral ground, his words. I told him I was bringing my adopted daughter. I didn't tell him anything else. They walked in 15 minutes late. Clinton first, older than I remembered, thinner, gray creeping in at the temples that hadn't been there at 30. Rosalie behind him, dressed sharp but in clothes that looked a season or 2 out of style, the kind of thing you'd only notice if you used to know her wardrobe. And behind them, a tall boy with an easy, nervous smile. Mom, Clinton said, like the words still fit in his mouth after 7 years. I didn't hug him. Clinton, I said, this is Jasmine, my daughter. The boy stepped forward first, hand out. I'm Theo, he said. I've wanted to meet you for a long time, Grandma. In something the way he said it, plain, warm, no performance in it, made me soften before I meant to. Jasmine shook his hand. He looked at her bracelet, she always wore one with a small bead pattern she'd made herself, and asked her about it, genuinely curious, no awkwardness at all. They talked through most of dinner while Clinton tried too hard to fill silences, and Rosalie agreed with everything he said in a voice that didn't sound like her own. I asked about their lives. Clinton said they'd downsized. Rosalie changed the subject fast when I asked why. Her rings were missing. I noticed that before I noticed much else. The bare fingers where there used to be diamonds. Something was wrong with them. I just didn't know what yet. We agreed to meet again the following week, at my place this time, less formal. Walking to the car, Jasmine signed to me, quiet so only I'd catch it. He's nice, Theo, nothing like them. I nodded. I believed her.
But what I didn't believe, not for 1 second, was that Clinton had crawled back into my life after 7 years of silence just because his son wanted a grandmother. I'd find out exactly why soon enough, and it would have a name: Drake Hendricks.
Knoxville, Tennessee. Grandma, something's wrong with them. I can't explain it. I just feel it. That was Jasmine, standing at the kitchen window, watching Theo's car pull out of the driveway after his 4th visit in 3 weeks. She wasn't wrong. I'd felt it too. Theo had started coming alone most days, said his parents were busy. He and Jasmine had gotten close fast, too fast for 2 kids who'd met a month ago, but in the way that made sense once you knew what they were both carrying. 2 adopted kids, both wondering their whole lives if they were ever really wanted. They'd sit out on the back porch for hours, talking low, laughing at things I wasn't part of. I let it happen. It was good for both of them, but I kept watching Clinton and Rosalie underneath it all. The secondhand clothes, the missing rings, the way they changed the subject every time money came up. It was a Thursday when it cracked open. Theo came by himself again, went straight out back with Jasmine, like always. An hour passed, then 2. The house stayed too quiet for 2 teenagers who usually couldn't stop talking. I looked out the window. They were still on the porch swing, but Theo had his head down, shoulders caved in. Jasmine's hands were moving fast, signing the way she did when words alone weren't fast enough for what she needed to say. She glanced toward the house, saw me watching, shook her head. Not yet. 30 minutes later, the back door opened. Theo's eyes were red. Jasmine had that flat, careful look she got when she was holding something down. "We need to talk to you," she said. We sat in the living room. Theo couldn't look at me at first. "I need to tell you why my parents really wanted to meet you." His voice was shaking, but he kept going. "6 months ago, my grandfather got arrested. Rosalie's dad, Drake Hendricks, he'd been running some kind of investment fund for years. Turned out it was fake, a Ponzi scheme. The whole thing collapsed. Federal agents seized everything he owned." I sat very still. "He's in prison now," Theo said. "Everything Rosalie's family had, the money, the name, all of it, gone. My dad lost his job, too. He only had it through Drake's connections. Nobody in that circle will touch them now." "Where are you living?" I asked. 2-bedroom apartment. They're drowning in debt. People are suing them." He finally looked up. "They coached me before that first dinner, told me exactly what to say, that you'd feel guilty about missing my whole childhood, that if I played it right, you'd want to help." It all clicked into place at once. The worn clothes, the bare fingers, Clinton's careful apologies that never quite landed as real. "And you went along with it," I said. "At first, they're my parents. I thought maybe they actually wanted family and the money was just underneath it. But then I met you and Jasmine." His voice cracked. "This is the first time anything's felt real, and I've been lying to you the whole time I was here." "You're 17, I said. "You didn't put yourself in that house." Jasmine reached over and took his hand. Then she looked at me, and something in her face told me she wasn't done. "There's more," she said. "Tell him. About Hannah." Theo's whole body went rigid. 2 years ago, I dated a girl, Hannah. She had Down syndrome, high functioning. We were close, 6 months together. My parents found out and lost it. They said I couldn't be seen with someone like that, said it would follow me. They made me end it. The room went dead quiet. Then Jasmine signed and spoke at once, steady even though her hands were shaking. "I'm not just some kid Grandma adopted. I'm your biological sister, Theo, Clinton and Rosalie's daughter. They gave me up 6 days after I was born because I have Down syndrome, the same thing they made you walk away from in Hannah." Theo's face went white. "No,
They wouldn't. They did, I said quietly. I flew in to meet her, and she was already gone. I spent 8 years finding her. He sat there like the floor had opened under him. They kept me, he said almost to himself, because I was easy, and they threw her away because she wasn't. It's not your fault, Jasmine signed. They don't get to do this, he said, standing now, pacing. I can't go back there. You're 17, I said, not 18 yet, but you have a say in this. Can I stay here? His voice broke on it. With you two? Yes, I said, no hesitation. 3 days later, I sent the invitation. Dinner, Saturday, my house. We need to discuss something. Clinton wrote back within the hour, all relief. We'd love to. Thank you, Mom. He thought it was finally working. They arrived dressed sharper than I'd seen them in weeks. Borrowed confidence, maybe, borrowed clothes. Rosalie brought wine like this was a reunion. We ate. I let them relax into it. Dessert came out before I stood up. Before you say whatever you came here to say, I have something to tell you both. I looked at Jasmine. This isn't just my adopted daughter. Rosalie went still. Clinton's fork stopped in the air. She was in foster care and group homes for 8 years before I found her, since she was 6 days old. The birthmark on her arm matches yours, Clinton, same place yours has been since you were a baby. The DNA confirmed it, 99.8%. That's not... This is your daughter, I said to Clinton, the one you threw away because a screening said she'd need more than you wanted to give. Clinton's face went the color of paper. Theo stood up. And I know why you actually wanted me to meet her, he said to his father. Not for family, for money. You coached me, Dad. I heard you practicing what you'd say to ask her for it. We had no choice, Rosalie said, voice cracking. Dad lost everything. We lost everything. You had a choice 8 years before this dinner ever happened, I said. You made your choice. I made mine when I spent 8 years finding her. Theo's made his, too. I'm staying here, Theo said. I can't go back, not after this. Rosalie stood, reaching for him. We raised you. We're your parents. Jasmine needed parents, and you threw her away. I need a real family now. I pointed to the door. Leave. Don't come back. You lost both your children tonight, and you did it 8 years before this dinner ever happened. They left without another word. I heard the car pull out of the driveway, gravel under the tires, then nothing. Theo sat down hard, head in his hands. Jasmine wrapped her arms around him. I sat on his other side and held them both. It's over, I said. It wasn't really over, not the kind of thing that ends clean, but that night in that house, the 3 of us sat together until the candles burned down, 2 grandchildren who'd both been thrown away by the same 2 people, and a grandmother who spent 8 years refusing to stop looking. We weren't perfect. We weren't even close to finished figuring each other out, but we were home. My name is Danielle Pierce. Tell me, did Clinton and Rosalie deserve a second chance, or did I make the right call shutting that door for good? Let me know in the comments.